It's no secret that counterspells are one of the most powerful effects in Magic the Gathering. Being first printed all the way back in 1993 in the original Alpha series, counterspells have long been a part of Magic history and gameplay. Countermagic itself is entirely unique, being one of the few catch-all type effects that Magic has to offer. The downside? Well, knowing when and where you should use your counterspells. In this video, I'll cover the basics to using countermagic and how to secure your first win using counterspells. Hello, my name is Xspi, and in this video I'll teach you how to use one of my favorite card archetypes in Magic, Counterspells. Stick around, and at the end of the video I'll reveal one of the easiest counterspells to use that only costs 10 cents. So what is a counterspell? A counterspell is any card that specifically has the phrase counter target spell. Some examples include the original counterspell, cancel, spell swindle, and force of will. There are a few other variations like negate or offer you can't refuse, which reads counter target non-creature spell, annul reads counter target artifact or enchantment spell, and disdainful stroke, which has counter target spell with mana value 4 or greater. So what does a counterspell actually do? What a counterspell does is it stops an opponent's spell and sends it straight to the graveyard. Whenever a spell is cast, whether it be creature, artifact, or instant, it is now considered on the stack. Now you may have heard of people mentioning the stack without actually knowing what it is. The stack is essentially an invisible zone where spells and abilities must be bypassed before it can resolve. MTG Arena does a good job of visualizing the stack. Once our spell or ability goes on the stack, as an opponent we have the opportunity to counter the spell. For example, if my opponent wanted to play a Fade-Bloom trick, I could say, in response, I cast Spell Pierce. If my Spell Pierce isn't further interacted with, the Fade-Bloom trick would go straight to the graveyard, and my opponent wouldn't get their fairy tokens. Counterspells are unique in that it is one of the few catch-all type effects that Magic has to offer. Almost all of the counterspell effects are in blue, making blue extremely popular and powerful in formats like CDH and Legacy. So unless you've been playing since Alliances or paid the big bucks to get free countermagic, chances are you'll be starting out on some pretty basic counterspells. During your turn, if you think that someone may cast a really threatening spell soon, you want to make sure not to spend all of your mana. Even though it can be tempting, counterspells are no good unless you've saved the mana to cast your counterspell. Now, after you pass the turn with your mana open, the next thing to do is identify your target. Counterspells are like snipers. They don't shoot often, but when they do, it has to count. Now, the most obvious targets are Win Adepts. Cards like Craterhoof Behemoth or Torment of Hailfire need to be countered. Other spells might be ones that set you back, like a Path of Exile or a River's Rebuke. Knowing what to counter can be tricky sometimes, and you have to use your own threat assessment. If you're at a casual table, it's also okay to ask for help from other players. Counterspells can be daunting, and it can feel especially bad if you save 2 mana that you didn't end up using. But that's okay, because even if there isn't anything to counter, you can still utilize your mana. Here are some super easy counterspells to start off on. My personal favorite is Confounding Riddle. For just 3 mana and 10 cents, you can counter attacks any spell or swap it for card selection. In decks that especially care about graveyards, it puts 4 cards into your graveyard, making it especially useful for things like Delve or Escape. Another very similar counterspell is Supreme Will, which puts the cards back into your library instead if you don't want to fill up your graveyard. Another starter-friendly counterspell is It Charm. Being modal gives it a lot of flexibility and only costs 23 cents. An extremely popular spell is 3 Steps Ahead, which can act as a counterspell, copy, card selection, or all 3 if you have enough mana. It's currently going for around $5 because of just how powerful and easy to use it is. Lastly, a card that will get some hate, Wash Away. For 3 mana, it is a regular counterspell, but for 1 mana, you can counter any commander, which is almost always a good hit. They might not be happy, but you can't deny that Wash Away is a great counterspell, especially for commander. And that's it! You're ready to start controlling the table with your new counterspells. People will learn to respect the 2 untapped islands. If you found this video helpful, I will be making more of these videos in the future, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out. If you know of any other good counterspells, leave them in the comments section below. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time.